You're going to play the game now. It's called the illusion.
Nah, it's never that for me. I told you where it's coming from. I told you it's coming from my mama. It's coming from the center,
Okay, the center.
right?
Okay, good.
So that's where it's coming from. So if some people might think, okay, that's my own, that's me being delusional or me being stuck in my own illusion. But at
Illusion. I
least
never said delusional. Illusion, but you might think it's
now I say
delusion.
some people. I know. I'm
Mhm.
saying some people might see that way as a delusion or an illusion. But at the end of the day, I know where it's coming from. I'm connected to it. It's the connection you can explain with with the mother and the children, right? You can understand why the child, is so attached to the mother, or the mother is so attached to to the children. That's the connection that I have with my mama, which is my nature. I have a nature. It's in my nature to talk and act the way I'm acting.
Hey, Raul, let me ask you something real quick. Have you actually ever seen the inside of a body? Like, have you ever went to the morgue or to a biology center or something and actually seen the inside of a body?
Talking about, what we call the physical body, to be
Yeah,
able to
yeah,
see
yeah. Like,
skin.
have you ever seen somebody laying on a table and um, what they call a mortician or whatever that is, split their body down the middle and actually, pull the skin back and open up the rib cage and actually see what's inside of a living body. Have you ever seen that?
Well, if we're saying a living body, not a human body, but I have seen that to a living body because I used to slaughter animals.
Okay, but I'm talking about a human body. Have you ever seen a human body
Yeah,
split open?
not like with my own eyes, like in person, but I've seen it, on videos. That's the only way.
Okay, Dom, have you ever seen a living body split in half?
Can't say I have actually. I hope that you share with us if there's some sort of energy you got from it. But no, myself, no.
Okay,
And I know I haven't seen anything like that.
yeah, I've
I mean,
I've,
now
I've
you know
seen a
what?
few of them.
In person, I haven't. I
Yeah.
seen brains splattered all over the place. Like what last Thanksgiving, uh, a woman brains
Oh
and
Lord.
her head came slamming down on the road, and she was in the middle of an intersection, and you couldn't even make out what it was, but you could see that her head, the top of it, just like from like I say her nose up was gone, and you just seen like stuff. And if you can understand what brain fragments or even fathom what brain fragments look like, I seen that, and my kids actually seen it too because we went right past it, So that was something.
Well, I've seen many of those. I've seen many accidents that where
I
they
mean,
had to
so
pick up.
so I could say that was the inside of a person's body, but that's just brains all over the road because she got hit by a car and flipped up and came back down and bust her head open like kind of like a watermelon slamming down against the ground.
Yeah,
So
yeah, 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 yeah.
Well, I think if that's the case, I've kind of seen have accident where the people had the guts spilled out, what I'm saying, their arm, like the whole body was totally dismantled, that they had to pick it up, with certain thing with tools. They had to pick up the body. They couldn't just go and grab the body, and put it on in anything and take it to the morgue. They had to literally use certain like shovels and other things to pick up the body.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I was asking, and I mean, I'm glad that at least everybody, because it was kind of like a rhetorical question to tell you the truth, but I at least wanted to hear what y'all had to say, whether or not somebody actually saw a body, because I done seen a lot of them. The reason why I asked that question is, let's get back down to brass tactics, because I think we need to narrow down on something real quick. Consciousness. Now, if you see, okay, Knowledge said he saw a lady with her brains blowed out or her brains laying out. Okay. If her brain was laying on the ground, where her conscience go? Was her conscience inside that brain? Because if her conscience was inside of that brain is gone now. It done evaporated. If what's actually inside of a body dictates who we are, then that means once this vessel, like Raul called it a vessel, and I appreciate that, once this vessel no longer is able to, let me see, operate, then that means it's over for us. But I think I kind of want to say that don't none of us believe that, because if you believe in consciousness, then you will know that there's a difference between the brain and the mind.
Yes.
The brain is what knowledge saw, but he didn't see the mind.
Yeah, you can't see the mind. Like I said, and I was going back and forth with Dom about that earlier. Like I said, the mind controls thoughts, and the brain, I feel like it's like a superconductor. It 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 makes everything possible. You get what I'm saying? Because without the brain, we couldn't have the mind, we couldn't have thoughts, and but now the question is, without the brain, can we have consciousness? Because they done said people done been brain dead. So with that, where does that leave consciousness? I think the consciousness comes from within the essence of you. You know what I'm saying? Because my consciousness is not your consciousness, in a sense, if you understand what I'm saying. I believe like consciousness it comes from within. It's the soul. It's the thing to make you able to facilitate and move around with your vessel. You know, it's that certain type of energy that makes you present in this realm, as far as like your personality and things like that. But I could be wrong.
I can elaborate. I can proceed to get this guys as possibility. When a person goes into a coma or hypnosis, what supposedly or could be occurring is the mind's communicating what it's always communicating with. It's called the midbrain, not with the upper hemisphere, what's called the king and queen. That's why when somebody blacks out, they're still functioning. Hypnosis, what's functioning the vessel at that point. That's why women are more preconceived, because they're actually able to reproduce another vessel out of their womb. So they're going to be more in tuned, insightful, intuitive with the mind. Now the mind could be perceived like we have a cell phone and then you have a satellite dish somewhere else, but the mind is actually AI in between, the energy. So now AI can be helping a mechanic figure out a problem, helping children speak a language, controlling your Google, your house. The mind's the same ideal. It floats everywhere. It's energy. We breathe in and out. This is why when people get into a fire or whatever, they don't realize you're fighting with fire. It wants the same thing that you want, oxygen. It's fighting for it. But what is oxygen? It's like, what are clouds? We've not got into that yet from the masses. There's people individually that understand this, but from the masses' point of view, they're not ready yet to hear that consciousness travels whenever it wants to. Call it spirit. Even when I'm hearing you talk about KU, about personality, those are controlled by daemons. Personalities, those are your mask, your behaviors. That's not who we are. We're playing those roles. That's why when people say,
Of course, that goes back to, you can read the laws of human nature and understand that. That's psychology. I get what you're saying.
yeah, we can use one of the
I mean,
dogmas.
like I said, I'm a very knowledgeable brother. That's why they call me Knowledge Uprising. But I like where you're going. Keep going.
I think we all are to a certain point. So once you become aware of it, so when we're actually, psychology is one. We're trying to understand each other based on our personalities, our mask. So what mask do you want to be? I'm an electrician. I'm a man. I have a European descent. That's not who I am. Those are my personalities. Those are my mask. or behaviors. Modify a person's behavior. Easiest thing to do when you really look at the energy of all of us. You
Okay, but at the end of the day, don't your mind influence your personalities and things like that?
I would say they're two different things going at once. The mind is something
Yeah,
totally
yeah,
different from that.
yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. So it can be something totally different from that. So what does the mind facilitate? Because me personally, I think thoughts can influence the mind, and if the mind is influenced, you tend to react to things differently.
Well, anything after thoughts. In this case, oral,
I mean,
speech.
that's just my sentiment. I could be wrong. You know.
But I don't know about wrong, but you're leading the possibilities. That even that's a program, right and wrong. That's one hemisphere opposed to the other. But I get it. We all have to use a certain type of language. So anything after thoughts, oral or written, the mind actually is what we have to use. In this case, if I'm with you, KU, if you're not speaking to me, I might be reading body language. Or if you start doing symbols, that's another language. That's what we would call the mind. It stores all that information. It's a storing of information. I'm just trying to use words to describe the undescribable. So I'm just using that as a way to describe it by using the word mind. But it's energy. It's no different if me and you open up a computer or a cell phone. Okay, so how does the board work? Then we start looking at cities or we start looking at ourselves. We move around in those boards like we do on the earth. It affects everything else around us, not individually as much as a group environment. It's like there's a lot of languages that still exist, but a lot of us don't practice it, but they still do exist. So we can't turn around and say, okay, well, Dom, I know that French exists, but I don't understand how to
And see, you
communicate
gotta
with it.
realize people don't know how to make correlations with languages. Like me, I can put stuff and understand languages and put them together, and I could see the connections between them. But with
Mhm.
other people, it can be kind of arduous. And if it's arduous for them, they're not gonna understand it. They're gonna look at it like it's gibberish. Like I
Mhm.
can't get it. Their mind will be in shambles.
I could say
And
that
and
about it.
then when we say their mind will be in shambles, this goes it has nothing to do with thought. It's just they mind can't get it.
Well, you have to communicate with the mind, and that's where the consciousness called thoughts. That's the language called consciousness. What we speak is for the avatar. Not everybody can dunk like Michael Jordan or run like another athlete or whatever. That means everybody has different kinds of gift. Even athletes have to relearn how to breathe differently to understand how oxygen really works. I'm not saying I do it. I understand health doesn't mean I have to practice it. So in this particular case, it's like anything. Some people aren't going to get it, and you're right. They're going to think it's gibberish or woo woo, but that's just them being consciously ignorant of something, opposed to respecting another human being by just hearing them out. You don't have to agree or disagree with them, just hear them out. Because I don't know their story. I don't know where they come from. Most of us
Yeah,
here on
but
the band,
a lot of time we listen to people, but we don't hear them though.
we should
You
be
know,
hearing.
you can listen to something and don't know and don't hear what it was being said. Just because you're listening don't mean that you hear. Because hearing comes with understanding. Hearing is being able to absorb what's being said or what you're listening. So if you can't absorb it, to your eardrum, right? It's just sound, right? So that again, you can listen to somebody and not hear what they're saying. So just because I'm listening to you, don't mean I hear you. But I want to kind of tap in, to the whole thing that's moving the body, right? Me personally, I think is our emotion. This is why they don't want us to really be emotional being, because we will understand how the body move. We will understand what moves the body and how how the consciousness, or not consciousness, how the energy, navigated, through the body. You see, so I think consciousness, is is to be aware, right, of what's going on. mean that I'm aware that I'm speaking. I'm aware that I'm hearing what I'm hearing. I'm aware that I'm going to, I'm traveling or I'm going into something. Being aware in general, to me, that's what, the consciousness is ties into, you know, and the mind, itself, is the connection, right? It's like the connecting. It's like what's connecting, like everything, what's connected, my consciousness to the brain, to the body, to my body, my emotions, my thought. You know what I'm saying? The mind is like that black hole, right? It's like that black hole that's attracting, all these different, lights, all these different type of energy. You know what I'm saying? And turning them, into and connecting them, to the body itself, to my vessel, itself. So again, I think, what's make the body move is consciousness, because, if people know what sleep paralysis is, you can be aware of you being on the bed. You just can't wake up, right? You just can't get out of the bed. You know what's going on. You know you're awake, right? You just, so for some reason, you just can't, like I said, get out of bed, right? So again, you have to be, to be able to tap into your emotion, right? Into your energy. Your energy have to be in motion. This is what have the body, this is what have you be able to move your hand, you know what I'm saying, to move your head, to turn around, to walk, to do all these things.
So what's more important? Is it more important to have body language, or is it more important to have language through communication like the mouth? English, Spanish, French, German, whatever. If like the last catastrophe, which was the
I think oral
coronavirus.
communication. I'm just gonna answer it real quick before you finish, but I think oral communication is better. You know,
Okay.
because off body language, we can tell like if we want to interact with an individual. You get what I'm saying? But if we base it off just like communicating, I think it would be oral. You know, and if we can't do it oral, then if they don't know our language, then of course we would have to use some type of sign language or find a way to interact to where they can understand what we're saying. You feel me?
Yeah, I think the oral communication is the advanced part. And that's what I'm getting, that's what I was leading into. The last catastrophe, I think, was the coronavirus, right? So let's say that took out civilization and we got to start over. We had to start over. So that means I'm in Georgia and I'm talking to my family through sign language and body language, because the only way they understand me is like